Porter Street, Beginning's End. Porter Street was a private bathhouse located in Porter Street, Prahran, behind Chapel Street. It had been a gathering place for gay men since the 1990s. It had occasionally garnered publicity when deaths had occurred from drug-fueled stim parties, in which men would inject themselves with methamphetamine and GHB and have marathon sex sessions. Almost unknown to the heterosexual community, Porter Street had managed to fly under the radar from the authorities and maintain its office of sordid depravity for almost a decade. When gay men would die from making love too hard, an ambulance would sometimes be called, and to conceal the fact death had occurred, the ambos were paid to carry the victim out with an oxygen mask on their face to depict they were still alive to any potential passers-by on the street. I had heard a story from a gay friend about how one man had been tied up and bent over a stool in a dark room, as men would come and go taking their turn with him. As night turned to morning and it was time for the bathhouse to close, it was discovered the man bent over the chair had died hours earlier and rigor mortis had set in. This is a story that must be told. This is Porter Street, Beginning's End. David crosses his right leg over his left and enthusiastically flips through the pages of the MX Club's Guide to Melbourne, licking his lips in excitement over the plethora of possibilities that awaited him.
Dude, this place looks perfect for your birthday. It's called Porter Street. It's 5 minutes from here too.
Dope. What's the guide say?
The traditional home of all things manly, sweaty, furry and leather-clad, Porter Street is not one for the faint-hearted, though its bark is definitely worse than its bite. In fact, the crowd in this VCAT-approved men-only joint is probably one of the friendliest on the scene. Just don't expect any Kylie tunes. An excellent beer garden out the back makes for perfect blokey afternoons, while the weekend often plays host to dance parties. The real star of the show is Thursday night's Strictly Leather event, Spit and Polish, complete with free buzz cuts. Okay, that's it. We're going.
I'm not going fucking gay clubbing, man.
Dude, it says Sunday nights here, both sexes are allowed. Imagine all the hot fag hags.
I'm not convinced, man. It'll be mostly guys. Fuck that.
Dude, nothing else is open on a Sunday and everywhere else is busy. Let's just go and see what it's all about. And if it's just guys, we'll come home.
Alright, fine. But if it's heaps of gay cunts, I'm out.
11 p.m.
Porter Street.
As they approached the club, two beautiful door girls came into view. Mike licked his lips. Importantly, there were girls and guys in line for the club. It was the real deal, a unisex night, just as David promised. I told you, dude, there's heaps of hot chicks here. And guys.
Wait, what did you just say?
I mean, like, good-looking dudes will attract more girls to the club, and there'll be more girls total for us.
Oh, yeah, fair.
They waited in line for no more than 5 minutes before being greeted gleefully by the door girls. The door girl asked for a list.
This is our first time here. We're not on anyone's list.
That's fine, guys. You're both cute, so you can go through. It shouldn't be too busy tonight.
Awesome, cheers for that. Maybe see you in the club later.
The red ropes were lowered and they walked down the path to the club. I got weird vibes from her. She was strange.
Really? I thought she was banging and she was potentially keen.
The pathway to the club was far from the red rope-adorned entrance. The front of the building they approached was grey and monolithic. Statues of gargoyles lined the perimeter of the garden, nestled between a spiked fence and an array of security cameras.
They've got a lot of security here for a club. I don't think I've ever seen a club that has so many cameras and security guards.
It's a pretty exclusive club, man. They've got to keep things safe.
It can't be that exclusive. They let us in without a peep.
Yeah, true. Apparently the unisex nights aren't huge for them, so maybe that's why. They arrived at the front of the building, and red velvet curtains hung in front of the open door. Smoke wafted out from the velvet hangings, and the sound of high BPM electronic music could be heard as they approached.
You first, brother.
No, you first.
Fuck that. I don't want to catch gay.
Oh my god, you're so silly. You're not going to catch anything. Fine, follow the leader. The entrance room to the club contained a cloakroom housed within a wrought iron cage. There was no one behind the counter. Beyond the cloak were 8 doors, each listed in Roman numerals. The frame of each door had what seemed to be a theme. One door had an aquatic theme, another had a Roman theme, and another seemed to have a strange flesh theme. To the right of the doors lay a dark steel elevator with a series of strange numbers surrounding it. The numbers read B1, B2, B3, all the way to basement level 10, and beyond those numbers were a series of symbols. Mike could make out that the Amiga symbol was there, but the rest were entirely unfamiliar.
Act 2. The pool ebbed with glugginess as the abundance of lubricant and body fluids had turned the water into a layered gruel.
If we dive under while they search the room and we hold our breath, they won't find us.
I'm not getting to that fucking pool, man. There has to be some other way.
There's no other way, man. We're going to have to get wet.
David lowered himself slowly into the semen-filled gay play pool as to not make much noise, and said softly once again to Mike,
"We have to get wet,"
and submerged himself with his mouth confusingly agape and a smile in his eyes. Mike's eyes darted around the room looking for a place to hide. He found a small clothing locker ajar and managed to squeeze into it. The gay brigade burst into the room and frantically searched high and low. Mike could see through the grating of the locker. The men were buff and oily, sporting obvious roid guts, and repeatedly chanting something as if they were zombies, and it wasn't brains. The back of the locker had begun to give way and revealed a tunnel leading into a ventilation shaft. How incredibly fortunate he was to have picked this locker of all lockers. On the floor of the tunnel was a plastic bag filled with needles and vials. It must have been contraband hidden from the rest of the gay community. He pondered for a moment what on earth would be considered banned in a place so depraved. Another plastic bag lay next to it with the initials JL written on the front. Contained inside was a book titled How to Avoid Sloppy Story Writing. It looked entirely unread. Mike peered through the grating of the ventilation shaft down into the pool room. In exhaustion from holding his breath, David had been forced to surface. The assailants immediately noticed him and he was pulled out of the pool. Mike's heart sank and the reality of the situation began to sink in. He continued crawling until he reached another grate. He peered through to see David on his knees surrounded by at least 5 men, liberally servicing each of them with an unsettling fervour. He wasn't sure if David was trying to stall by actively engaging in group fellatio or if he had fallen and become a changeling. He had remembered what David had said to him days earlier when looking back on their youth and missed career opportunities.
"It's never too late to be what you could have been,"
he had said, and perhaps David had taken that quote into practice and finally found his place. "He's done," Mike said to himself and continued crawling until he reached a ventilation opening in the adjoining room. It was a cold room of some sort, filled with plastic-wrapped sacks of what looked like meat, but he couldn't be sure. The door to the meat room was locked from the outside. The only way out was back from whence he came, or a manhole in the middle of the floor where the blood drained through. He opened the manhole and exposed another tunnel. He crawled through into the narrow and blood-filled wooden buttress space. He crawled for 10 minutes in the dark. The tunnel seemed to be going down rather than up, and as he progressed, Gregorian chanting could be heard. It became louder and louder. The tunnel began to feel hot and humid. Light started to appear, and he finally reached the mouth of the tunnel. A huge cavern became visible, filled with industrial machinery and massive dark holes that seemed abyssal. At the highest point in the cavern was an altar with a lectern next to it. Behind that lay a massive mirror-looking object bolted to the cavern wall. It looked like a mirror without a frame, and Mike felt puzzled. There was no way back, and the only way forward was to enter this strange cavern. Just as he was about to drop down, people began to enter the room. He shuffled back into the tunnel and remained quiet. A man in a red robe with black trim approached the lectern. "I am glad to see such a turnout tonight. The delegates from the Outer Rim World clubs will be arriving shortly, and the ceremony will begin. Let us pray, our brothers, do not tarry. We have an eventful night ahead, gentlemen." Mike noticed that there were no women in the audience, only men in white cloaks. Mike waited for the speech to finish, and as it did, he noticed a gurney being wheeled out toward the altar. It was David, completely naked, his body bruised and battered, and a pool of fluid lay between his legs seeping off the side of the gurney. Mike shuffled back into the tunnel to obscure himself more. There was gay bullshit afoot. The mirror against the wall began to shimmer with a light, a dark light. As David's body was wheeled closer, the light intensified. The man in the red robe spoke. "We commit this changeling to the depths of the gay underworld. May he cross the river Styx safely and arrive in his eternal home of Sodom." The gurney was pushed towards the portal and was violently sucked through with supernatural force. The crowd began to roar with a thunderous applause, and Mike began to feel dizzy and feel his eyes closing. Act 3. 2 weeks later, Melbourne University. On his way to class, Mike spots David limping towards him in the distance with a poorly disguised shit-eating grin on his face. "Dude, what the fuck? I thought you died. How the hell did you get out of there? What the fuck is going on?"
"Man, what if I was to tell you that everything you saw that night was an act, a kind of charade.
A charade? You tell me, David, what kind of fucking charade ends with you sucking a bunch of guys' dicks?
I did what I had to do to make it believable for you. We had to stage a narrative that was consistent, or you would have seen through it. I'm not actually gay, man. Not full-blown anyway. This whole operation was intended to highlight your homophobia. I thought that through you seeing all this stuff going on, you would have changed your mind about the gay community, but I think in retrospect it was a bad idea.
So you organised hundreds of people at this venue and spent God knows how much money to try and make me less critical of gay men? I don't buy it, man. I know you've always been partial to that world.
I'm not partial though, man. I like girls.
Well, what about that guy in Johannesburg who bottomed out on you? I remember overhearing you tell that story at a party last year, and you thought I didn't hear it, but I did.
That was just jive talk, man. I had to make it seem convincing for you, even back then. This has been a long work in progress trying to turn you around. By the way, South Africa is worth visiting though. Johannesburg is a beautiful place.
So after everything we went through that night, I've come out feeling more homophobic than before. What were you thinking staging such a ridiculous plot? Did you seriously think upon witnessing a bunch of sex acts, hiding from the gay Gestapo storming room searching for us, and some obscene Ku Klux Klan-esque ritual that I would actually have a better opinion of gay men? You're a fool, man. Why would you even bother?
Because I love you, man. I want you to see the world the way I see it, free of the constraints of petty phobia and open to the spectrum of free love and unbridled sexual hedonism. Call me an Epicurean. Call me gay. But life's too short, man. Now give us a kiss and let's get fucking weird.